Somewhere in your family tree, thousands of years ago, one of your ancestors survived. Something that should have killed them, and the reason they survived is still inside your DNA. Right now. Not a weapon, not a shelter, a genetic mutation, born out of pure desperation against the deadliest predator humanity has ever faced. And that predator isn't a lion, or a wolf, or even another human. It's an insect that weighs less than a raindrop. Mosquitoes have killed more humans across history than every war, every famine, and possibly every other cause of death combined. So here's the real question. If ancient humans had no screens, no repellent spray, and no idea mosquitoes were even the problem, how did any of us survive long enough to be here? The answer involves Egyptian pharaohs, a 20,000-year-old mutation, and one plant that ancient people across 3 continents all discovered, worked, without any of them knowing why. Stick around, that last one is going to come up in a way you won't expect. For most of human history, nobody knew mosquitoes were the actual problem. Ancient Greek physicians, including Hippocrates, blamed bad air rising from swamps, miasma, and that idea stuck around for over 2,000 years. So ancient humans weren't fighting mosquitoes on purpose. They were fighting fevers and death, using whatever seemed to work, without understanding why any of it worked. We're moving through 4 parts. The everyday defenses ancient people built, the medicines they reached for, the disease mosquitoes were secretly spreading, and the one genetic survival trick the human body developed on its own. That last part isn't a story about a clever invention. It's evolution doing something so effective, it's still protecting people alive today. If you didn't know what a mosquito was, your best weapon was something simple. A net. Ancient Egyptians used bed nets as far back as roughly 2600 BCE. In the 4th dynasty. The Pharaoh Sneferu, who founded that dynasty, used bed netting himself, and centuries later, Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, was still sleeping under a mosquito net too. Well over 2,000 years of Egyptian rulers using the same low-tech solution, without needing the science behind it. It just worked. Smoke was the other major tool. Egyptians burned incense and oils like cedarwood and myrrh to repel mosquitoes. On a completely different continent, Native American tribes used smoke from specific herbs, and kept campfires burning through the night for the same reason. 2 civilizations, separated by an ocean, 0 shared science, landing on nearly the same solution. And in India, people turned to neem oil, which became a natural insecticide, still used in modern repellents today. This round's takeaway: ancient humans didn't need to understand mosquitoes to start beating them. Nets, smoke, and plant oils were independently discovered across unconnected civilizations. Proof of a massive, unintentional, multi-continent trial-and-error experiment running for thousands of years. Defense was only half the problem. Egyptian laborers were given large amounts of garlic, likely to protect against malaria. And garlic does have real antimicrobial properties, so the observation may have had a kernel of truth in it. The real breakthrough came from Peru, where indigenous peoples discovered that cinchona tree bark treated fevers. Europeans eventually isolated the active ingredient, quinine, which became one of the most important drugs in medical history, used for centuries before anyone knew mosquitoes were involved at all. Humans were treating a mosquito-borne disease successfully for roughly 200 years, before they knew mosquitoes existed in the equation. Malaria itself has been recognized since Hippocrates, with indirect evidence stretching further back in the eastern Mediterranean. By the 4th century BCE, it was so severe in Greece that some historians believe it contributed to the decline of multiple city-states. This round's verdict: ancient medicine found one of history's most effective treatments without ever identifying the actual enemy. But treatment alone was never going to be enough. Around 50,000 years ago, mosquitoes that infected primates began infecting humans. As a warming Sahara turned Central Africa into ideal mosquito habitat, malaria became a constant selective pressure. People slightly more resistant survived to have children, generation after generation. Roughly 20,000 years ago, a spontaneous mutation appeared in the gene for hemoglobin, causing red blood cells to take a curved, sickle shape. One copy of this mutation, the sickle cell trait, provides dramatic resistance to severe malaria, while allowing a normal life. Researchers have directly observed that as malaria becomes more common in a region, the percentage of the population carrying the trait rises with it. Evolution, caught in the act. In living populations. 2 copies, though, cause sickle cell disease itself, genuinely serious, not protective. A real double-edged sword, written into human DNA. 1 copy, a shield. 2 copies, a serious illness. Yet in malaria-heavy regions, the protective trade-off was strong enough that the mutation spread, and it's still concentrated today in exactly the regions where malaria was historically worst. Nobody designed this. No ancient healer arranged it. Blind natural selection produced a defense more sophisticated than anything consciously invented, the human genome quietly rewriting its own defenses with no one steering it. This round's verdict goes to biology itself. But here's the detail that complicates everything. Humans didn't understand what mosquitoes were actually doing until shockingly recently. It wasn't until 1897 that British Army surgeon Ronald Ross proved mosquitoes transmitted malaria, tracking the parasite's life cycle inside the insect itself. Every defense in this video, nets, garlic, quinine, even the sickle cell trait spreading through entire populations, operated completely blind to the real cause for over 4,000 years. So how did ancient humans actually survive mosquitoes? Not through understanding. Through repetition, observation, and an enormous amount of an ancient trial and error spread across continents that never once communicated with each other. The nets worked because blocking the insect works, whether or not you know why. The smoke worked because mosquitoes dislike it, whatever you call the reason. The quinine worked because a molecule in tree bark disrupted the actual parasite 2 centuries before anyone knew a parasite existed. And the sickle cell trait worked because evolution doesn't selection, it just needs death to be selective, and time to do the rest. Which part hit you hardest? That humans were genetically evolving real malaria resistance for 20,000 years without knowing it? Or that we didn't identify mosquitoes as the cause until 1897? Tell me in the comments. And if ancient survival stories are your thing, the next video goes inside the deadliest plagues in ancient history, and the surprisingly clever ways ancient cities tried to quarantine diseases they couldn't see, name, or explain. See you there.